Hey everybody, what's good? Today I want to show you a workflow of how to make your podcast look and sound amazing. Let's go.
How is it going, guys? And welcome to the Olufemi channel. We're a group of teachers that want to shore up your video production skills in as little time as possible.
Hey everybody, what's up? Dave here. Hope everybody's doing well. Today I want to show you my workflow of how I edit podcasts, both audio and video. In the words of Nick, you want to be working smarter, not harder. So today I want to show you guys how I do that. Coming from a musical background, both producing and recording, and then all the video editing stuff, I've managed to refine some kind of workflow that works really well for what I do and speeds up the process. So me and Josh just recorded something really quick, so we've got some kind of content that you guys can edit as well. This was a remote recording we did, so the setup, Josh had his camera recording himself, and then his Zoom H1N that he used to record audio, and then I had a microphone and then my camera. Actually I used two cameras just for this example, and then we were communicating through Zoom. Now Zoom is great for communication, but when it comes to recording video and audio, let's be honest, it's not the best. It's over compressed, and I think we can come up with better solutions when it comes to recording some quality stuff. So we went with recording audio and video locally and then syncing that up in post. So let's jump in. I'll show you guys how I get this done. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna start with the audio. I'm gonna drag in the two audio clips that Zoom gave me to download. Pop them in your editing software. Any editing software will do the trick. Then I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna drag in the files that were locally recorded. So this is Josh's, and then I've got mine right here. I made the mistake of not clapping at the beginning, so I'm just gonna have to sync everything manually. But because everything was locally recorded, I can sync things up pretty well. So I've synced up mine right there, and then I'm gonna sync up Josh's right here. So that's all nice and done. Next, I'm gonna take the two local recordings and start treating them because they're a better quality recording and I can actually make them better. Whereas Zoom recordings are too compressed and you can't really do much with them. So I'm gonna take my first one and I'm gonna start editing this one in RX. I might be going a bit quick here, but I'll reference some of the other videos where I go more in depth about treating the audio. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some of the background noise out. So this is what the audio looks like. I'm gonna run spectral denoise, and what that will do is I'm simply gonna profile some ambient sound and then take that out of the recording, or just take it down a bit. I've done a full video on this and all the different options you got. I'll link it in description. So I'm gonna run that and just render the whole thing. Take some of that background noise out. As you can see, it looks a lot cleaner here. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take those mouth clicky noises out. Again, I've done a separate video on all that. Link it in description. And then the next thing I'm gonna do is I am going to take some of that room sound out, some of that reverb that might occur in your recordings. It's fairly minimal, but every little thing we do incrementally helps your recording. So I'm gonna run that as well. And that's pretty much ready to go. I'm gonna do exactly the same process with Josh's, run some of those standard cleaning plugins. Next thing after that is we're gonna go in and clean this audio up. As you can see right here, whenever I'm talking, some of this audio is being picked up. Reason being, Josh wasn't wearing headphones, so his mic was picking up some of the sound coming out of his phone. So I'm just gonna come in and clean those bits up. Again, every little thing really helps the recording. These are like minor details, but it's just really gonna help the final recording. So I'm just gonna go in and clean those up really quick. And obviously the more you do this kind of stuff, the better you get and the faster you get. You can pretty much visually do this. If you wanted to like see where the crossovers were and clean that up a bit further, you can listen to the clip and clean that a bit further. But I mean, this is what it kind of looks like. Next thing that is really, really important, you want to select your two clips, and most audio editing software will have this function where you can export the multi-track. So I'm gonna make sure I export this. So I've got one track for myself and then one track for Josh. This video is brought to you by Envato Elements, and they are running a ridiculous deal at the moment. $9 for your first month. I personally paid for the yearly subscription and I use it all the time. Lower thirds, motion graphics, templates, assets, audio visualizer templates that look great for podcasting, thumbnail templates, just a bunch of stuff that leveled up my production, made my life easier. Cool thing is you get unlimited downloads. Anything your client asks for, you can probably find an asset you can modify or an asset you can straight up use on Envato Elements. One of my favorite things is it keeps everything in projects. So if you remember you used an asset for some kind of project, you can go back in and it stores everything on the cloud for you. Check out the description below. Let's get back to the video. Next, I'm gonna open up Premiere and drag in all the files I need. So I've got my audio files and then I've got all my footage. So I've got two angles for myself and then one angle for Josh, excluding what we get from Zoom. And me and Josh both filmed at 23.976 frames per second. It is kind of important because everything then is cohesive. I'm gonna create a new sequence here, and this right here is important to label everything. This is gonna be my multicam setup, because I'm setting the multicam up and then I'm gonna edit it later. So in our setup, I'm just gonna make sure everything's synced up. So we're gonna drag our audio in, and the audio I exported from my software, I know that it's exactly the same length. First, I'm gonna sync up this video to just my audio track, make sure that's in place. Just like that, super easy to do. Next, I'm gonna take Josh's video footage and his audio and sync that up. That's all nice synced. I'm just gonna adjust that so it's the same length. And then I'm just gonna sandwich everything and put it on top of each other. Now in theory, I've got everything I need to start this edit. I'm just gonna add a few different angles. I'm gonna add the zoom call, sync that up with my audio. The zoom call isn't the correct size, so I'm just gonna scale to frame size. And now I've got the zoom call footage, I've got Josh's angle, and then my angle. I had my DJI Osmo Action record as well, so I've got another angle for myself, so I'm just gonna add that in. So we end up with zoom, one angle for Josh, my angle from the Osmo Action, and then my other camera that's behind my computer. What I usually do here is I start cropping stuff so it's the correct size. First thing I want, because zoom has these black borders, I want them to be transparent so that my background's cohesive throughout my whole video. So I'm just gonna add a crop to this zoom video, gonna duplicate it. So on the top one, I'm just gonna crop myself out. So it's 50% from the left and then 25% from the top and bottom. So it's quite symmetrical is what zoom gives you. And then from the other one, I'm just gonna do the opposite. So it'd be from the right, it'd be 50% and then 25 from the top and bottom. Now, because Josh was recording on his phone, we've got black borders there. So I'm just gonna do a little trick and add a transform effect that goes above the crop tool. And what this will do is it's gonna allow me to reframe the subject. So it's a good kind of thing to know when you're doing stuff like this or doing social media posts. You need to just reframe within certain boundaries. There you go, that's great. Now, me being me, I would like some more angles. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna duplicate those two, but I'm gonna nest two of them just so I've got one angle that's both of us are in. Now I'm gonna make those other two clips full size, just so we've got another angle, just to keep things interesting. I know it's not the best quality, but it's another angle to work with. So I'm putting it in there just in case we need to use it. We might not, and I probably don't want to because it's nice and pixelated, but it's kind of good to have. So right here, I've got multiple angles, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna leave it as it is. I've got exactly what I need. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create another sequence, and this is gonna be my editing sequence. So create another sequence called multicam edit. So in this sequence, I'm simply gonna drag in my multicam setup sequence, change the settings, and then the really important thing I do is I take the two tracks that I synced everything to and drag them in and pop them underneath here. Now, why I do this? I do this because then I can see who's supposed to be talking at any given moment, and I can kind of anticipate the change, or as a first run through, I can just sync everything up visually. I don't even have to listen to it. I will listen to it, but it's kind of good knowing that you can see what's going on exactly. Next thing, I'm gonna right click on that nested sequence and then enable the multicam. And the way we start editing in multicam is we need to toggle the multi-camera view. If you can't see this icon right here, just go ahead and press the plus button and just drag the icon down. So I've got it right there, so I'm gonna click on that. And as you can see here, I've got all the camera views. Because I didn't record the zoom straight away, we can't see the zoom, but if we go further along, we can see all my angles. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 angles I can mess around with and start editing my podcast. A few shortcuts I use when I edit podcasts, I use QW to ripple delete backwards and forwards, or I use E to add an edit. I've changed that from Control K because E is just easier and it's just around that area. And then D is play, or if I press it again, it goes into double speed. And then X is delete. So everything I need is around this area and it's easier to edit that way. So I'm gonna mute the sequence audio, so I've only got the 2 audio tracks to work with. So right there, I can see him starting to talk. What I'm gonna do is press E to add an edit. And then as I'm hovered over this clip and it's selected, I can simply either select the clip, or I can just press the number 3 because it's the third camera, 1, 2, 3, and I've changed there. And then visually, I can see that that Josh is talking there. I kind of reply there, but it's not enough to change the camera angle. And then I can go ahead right here and make another cut and then change it to number 1 for one of my angles. It's right there. And when you're editing, you can either make the cut and then select your camera, or as it's playing, you can select the camera and Premiere is just gonna make those cuts by itself. What I usually do is I go up here, right click, and then show audio time units. I've got another video where I explain exactly what I do in Premiere as far as sound goes and all the best settings to use. So I'll link that video as well. And what that does as far as sound goes, it gives you more detailed cuts. So say you miss something when you're editing the audio, you can just quickly just cut that bit and be super precise in Premiere. And you can just quickly do this. Now, when we have more angles to mess around with, we can actually edit the content without any jump cuts. YouTube videos were known for jump cuts and stuff, but when it comes to podcasting and interviews, we want stuff to be a bit smoother. So I'm just gonna show you a quick example. Right there where he says the and then we've got a few seconds silence. What I can do is chop that out and then change the angle so it looks like everything's a bit more flowy, a bit more cohesive. When he starts talking there, I'm just gonna change it to camera angle number 6.
It's funny to think about as far as just putting things in perspective. I think the thing that I guess before the pandemic here in LA.
So when you're doing interviews like that, you can chop up some of the double speeches and kind of like ahs and seconds of silence by just changing the camera angle. Now when you're done, it kind of looks like this. It'll be all choppy and stuff. What you can also do is download some assets from Envato Elements. Right here, I've got a couple of lower thirds that come in, just assets downloaded from Envato, and then some social media stuff that would be quite useful to have. This motion graphic is quite cool because it's for social media, but then it's one motion graphic, but then it's got all the options for like TikTok, Twitter, WhatsApp, YouTube, all that just within one motion graphic, which is quite useful. Now personally, there's a few little things I would do extra to the audio, like EQ and compression, but as a final kind of touch after you've done your cleanup and all that stuff, an easy kind of leveling solution, instead of having to go through everything and level it and make sure all the channels and volume are all leveled out, what you can do is download a plugin by Waves called Playlist Writer. And I'm gonna go to my audio track mixer, press the little tab right here. I'm gonna go to my final channel right here, which is a mix, which is what everything, all the channels would go through. Press on there. I'm gonna add Playlist Writer. Now, this is a great plugin because it takes all your channels and tries to level them out and make sure the volume is consistent. It maintains some kind of dynamic range without blowing things out, and it's quite good if you ask me. It's really good. Now it's got a preset here for YouTube and Spotify. I'm going to use that. I'm going to go with the fast attack, and then my preference is to turn the tonal character off, especially because the microphones we use are quite good. And what this will do is just level all your audio. So just a quick before and after. This is what it sounds like without Playlist Writer.
It depends the niche that you're targeting. When I started doing video tutorials,
and this is what it sounds like with Playlist Writer.
YouTube channel now can be harder and easier in some ways than it was. It's a different game starting a YouTube channel now than it was when I started, right?
And you're pretty much ready to go at this point. And you can export your video, export your audio separately, and you've got an audio podcast and you got your video podcast ready to go. Obviously, there are a few little extra things that we could do to the audio, but we're not going to do it right now. I've made a few other videos that go more into detail of how to treat the audio and make it cleaner. But I mean, this is a great start. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned something today. If you got any questions at all, just drop them in the comments below. Thanks to Envato Elements for sponsoring this video today. They're running a pretty ridiculous deal, so check it out in the description. Like and subscribe, that always helps the channel. Click that notification bell because you'll find out about the new videos dropping every week. If you want to say hi to me personally, check me out on Instagram. Dave the Greco is the handle. Come and say hi. Till next time, guys. Peace. Take care.